Okay. Hey everyone. We're back. Geometry's back. Uh, we're going to go through and finish up some of these notes. I'm going to be splitting this into pieces so that it's not too much to take in at once. But we're going to go around the same basic idea that we left off with on Friday, which is this idea of the area of a regular polygon, which is we're going to do the area equals 1/2 the apothem. Ooh, let's try that again. Area equals 1/2 the apothem times your side length times your number of sides. And the way that we got that, don't forget, is by building these triangles around whatever shape you had. And we decided that the number of triangles we had was equal to the number of sides here. And so it's basically the area of this triangle times how many triangles we had, which we decided was, well, however many sides we had. And so I ended by talking about how we're going to use our ideas of triangles to solve for these pieces, the apothem and the side length and all those. So I want to go back and look at how can we get some of these measurements. So what I'm going to do to start with is I'm going to draw one of these triangles. Not bad. Okay. And my question is, what is the measurement of this angle right here? And that angle is called the central angle. Forgive my handwriting throughout this. I'm using a new drawing device that I bought just so that I can get these things out to you. And that should make sense, called the central angle. Central angle, it's the angle in the center, right? It's the angle in the middle of this triangle. And the reason we're using that angle is because we know what the angle all the way around here would be. Well, it would be 360 degrees because that's our distance all the way around. And by the way, the reason that they use 360 is because it's divisible by a lot of things. So a lot of times we take this entire distance around and we divide it into pieces. And the nice thing about 360 is that we can divide it into a lot of different pieces. If we divide it into 2 pieces, it's nice and divisible by 2. It's nice and divisible by 3, by 4, by 5, by 6, not by 7, but then by 8. And so if we keep going, there's a lot of pieces we can divide by and still get a nice number. And so that's one of the reasons that 360 got chosen. So 360 is my distance all the way around. Okay? And the idea is that I'm splitting this into a bunch of different triangles. Okay? And by splitting this into a bunch of different triangles, I'm dividing it so that each triangle is equal. So that means that each of these angles in the middle in the triangles are also going to be equal. And they're each going to be divided by, well, however many triangles I made, which we decided was how many sides the shape had, which is n. Okay? So that's the first step to finding the central angle, is 360 divided by n. Then we have one more catch to this, which is that, remember, when we did these triangles, we did 1/2 base times height. So that means we got to drop down a height. Perfect. We have to drop down a height, which will split the triangle in half. So the angle that we actually want, the angle that we actually care about, is this angle right here. So then we're going to split the angle in half, because that will give us the actual angle that we want to use, the triangle that's going to help us get, especially if we want the height. especially if we want the height, then we want this triangle to do that. Okay, it's going to be easier once we look at an example here, so let's do that. Okay, here's our example. So a lot of what we do is going to revolve around this idea about finding different lengths in the triangle. Okay, so I'm going to do all my triangle work over here and everything else over here. Okay, so the first thing we need to figure out is what kind of shape we have. Well, the shape we have here is, it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sides. So that is an octagon. Octagon, and our area is 1/2 ASN. So we need to find each of these parts. Oh, well, it's an octagon, so we know how many sides it has. And, oh, we have another piece here. This already is my apothem, so it has to be 8. So we just need the side length, and to do that, we're going to go over here to do some work with the triangle. Now, we already have this apothem, the height, being 8. Okay, but then we need to get the central angle. Central angle, we're going to take 360 and divide it by our number of sides. Well, number of sides is 8. So that, let's see, I gotta divide a couple times. That's gonna be, oh, that's gonna be 45. Now remember, that 45 is this whole angle. This whole angle. And we just want this part of it. So if we just want that part of it, we got to cut it in half, because that apothem, that height, cuts it in half. So we actually get 22.5 degrees. So this is 22.5 degrees. Now, this is good news for us, because now all we need to do is figure out what this is. And we got tools to do that. We know our adjacent, and we are trying to find the opposite. So if we know adjacent and are trying to solve for opposite, that's going to be tangent. Tangent of our angle, which is 22.5, equals my opposite over adjacent, which is x over 8. Multiply on both sides, get rid of the fraction. And now we solve for x. So now that we've solved for x, well, that's not quite our side length. That's not quite our side length. Let's get a rounded answer here. Okay, our actual side length would be all the way across here. Because if I go over in this diagram, this is what I just found for x. That was my value for x that I just solved for. So to get the rest of the side length, I actually need to double it back out to get the whole side. So 2 times 6.6274. Now this is what goes in for my side length. So now I just need to plug my numbers into the formula. Well, area equals my apothem, which is 8, times my side length, which is this decimal over here, times your number of sides, which is 8. And if you plug that into your calculator, the fraction, the decimal you should get out, that should be 212.077. And since we want to think about units, well, since it's an area, it should be units squared. Square units. Okay? That's our final answer. Okay, let's do one more. Okay, next example. How many sides does it have? It's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 sides. So that is going to be a decagon, since it's got 10 sides. Area of the decagon is going to be 1/2 the apothem times the side length times the number of sides. And so see if you can figure out which things we know. So we have, we just said we have 10 sides, so let's fill that in. And what is this 7? Well, this 7 is a side. So we have a side length this time being 7. And to get A, our apothem, we need to go over here to our triangle. So just to give you an idea of the triangle that we're drawing, here it is, and then here is our apothem. Here's our height that we're trying to find. Okay, so this is A. This is my apothem. So that's what I'm trying to solve for. That's the triangle that's over here. So what do we know? We know that this is 7. This entire length is 7. So then when we split up our triangle, this whole thing is 7. But then I'm going to want to split up my triangle so that I have a right triangle. So I want these to each be half of that. Go halfway across. So this is 3.5. And this is 3.5 since we're going halfway. So let's figure out what this central angle is. Central angle, well, it's always 360 all the way around divided by our number of sides. The reason it's divided by our number of sides, well, because all of these triangles drawn around would be the same. So their angle at the center would be the same. So 360 divided by 10, well, that's 36. And remember, that would be this entire angle, and we only want this piece so that we're working with the right triangle. So we're going to cut it in half. Divided by 2 equals 18 degrees. So now this time, we're trying to solve for our apothem. And we know that this angle is 18. So this time we know our opposite across from this angle, and we're trying to solve for our adjacent. Right? We know opposite, we're trying to find adjacent. So opposite and adjacent, well, that's tangent of our angle, which is 18, equals opposite, which is 3.5, over my adjacent. Okay? And we'll go ahead and solve this equation. Multiply to get rid of the fraction. And then this time I have to do my dividing, because right now I have a times tangent of 18, so I want to get rid of that by dividing. There we go. There it is rounded. So I can go ahead and put that in for A. So now all we have left to do is plug our numbers into the formula. 1/2 times our apothem, which we just found. Times our side length, which we know was 7, times our number of sides, which is 10. Put that all in. And that's what we get. And again, units squared for area. Okay, so I want to just walk us through what we did again, and I'll write this out in just a second. But we looked at what kind of shape we had, and then we're using the same formula every time. Then from there, we're writing down what things do we know. Again, number of sides, we usually know because we're looking at the shape. Then we're figuring out what piece we need to solve for. And after we figure that out, we come over here to our triangle, get our central angle, 360 divided by number of sides. We got to cut that in half because we just want this piece of the central angle. All right, and then usually we're going to be using trig to get our other piece that we're missing. So that's what we did over here, and then plug it back into the formula. So one more time, steps for finding the area of a regular polygon. Step 1, what type of polygon is it? So is it an octagon, decagon? And then writing down the given information. So what do you know already? Step 2, find the central angle. And you're going to do that by doing 360 divided by your number of sides. And then usually we just want the piece of that, so we're going to cut that in half. Step 3, use your triangle skills. Most of the time it's going to be trig. But sometimes we'll use like 30, 60, 90 triangles and that kind of stuff to solve for what you don't know. Step 4, plug it all into the formula. And you're done. Okay, so I have 2 worksheets that I gave you for those of you that stopped in and picked up your stuff on Monday. I have 2 sheets that I gave you. One of them is a bit of an easier worksheet, and one of them is a little bit harder. So the one that doesn't have a back is the one that's the easier one. If you want to try that one first, try a couple of them, see how you do, and maybe try 1 or 2 more of these problems on the notes so that when we go over them, you can kind of check your own work on them. All right? And most importantly, make sure you're taking care of yourself. If you have any questions, then feel free to send me something on Remind. Just let me know, especially if you have one particular thing that you didn't understand about this. Make sure you let me know so that when I'm showing the next couple examples, I can go over those things in some more detail for you. Okay? Again, take care, and I hope you're having a wonderful day.